Depression, to start with, is a mood disorder, a mental health condition where it's basically characterized with feelings of hopelessness. You've been through a few challenges in life, a few setbacks in life. You've been disappointed, so you feel hopeless from such an experience.
We have this tendency of saying, if someone comes and asks you, Emmanuel, how are you? It's like a song. We say, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like people rarely say, by the way, I am not fine. Exactly. And I think we need to start from there, like being open enough to say, you know what? I am not fine.
Depression also affects your self-esteem as a person.
That one is very true.
You feel very worthless about yourself. You feel very hopeless about yourself. How you view yourself and how you view your surrounding is adversely affected. Consequently, lowering your self-esteem as a person and your confidence. So you lose touch with your productivity as a person. You are not as productive as you used to. You don't enjoy working as much as you used to. You don't enjoy social activities as much as you used to. So you find yourself maybe overriding your commitments in life. It comes and goes. Because it's a mood thing. It's a mood thing in mental health. So you have to work to prevent it from happening. What most people will call relapse prevention. You can be depressed. You see a counselor, psychologist, and a month or so you are off the symptoms of depression. But again, if you're not very careful with your lifestyle and maybe how you view your world around you and how you expose yourself to causes of depression, you can easily revert back to your depressive phases.
Welcome to Unfold, where we see with a different eye and, of course, visualize with a colorful mind. My name is Hilda Lumati, and I believe in sharing knowledge. Today, we're going to have a very important conversation, and I believe this is a conversation we should be having more often because a lot of people are going through this. A lot of people are depressed, and today we're going to understand what is depression really. My guest is going to delve deeper into that, just to help you deal with that state of mind. And I hope and pray that this particular conversation we're going to have will impact you positively, that even when you're in that situation right now, I hope you feel encouraged. So stay tuned.
Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. My name is Emmanuel Mutwiri. I'm a counseling psychologist, currently the lead counselor at Snapback Recovery Clinic. Welcome to Unfold, and today we have a very heated discussion on depression. Hope you get the opportunity to learn one or two things about depression. Welcome.
Welcome to Unfold.
Thank you so much.
This is where we look at life from a different angle in different aspects of life. And I'm glad today we are going to have a conversation around depression. You've mentioned that you've done counseling psychology, so you're a counselor. Yes. Now, I believe you're even the right person to have this conversation with, and you've also mentioned that you work at Snapback Recovery Clinic. Maybe you can just tell us what that is about before we begin.
Okay, I'm a counseling psychologist with quite a number of years of seasoned experience. I've worked in a number of rehabs around Nairobi and one in Meru. Currently, as I've introduced myself, I'm currently the lead counselor Snapback Recovery Clinic. Snapback Recovery Clinic is located in Mugodha at the outskirts of Ruiru, not far from Ruiru town. It's only a few kilometers from Ruiru. And if you can check our social medias, we have quite a variety of services in concern to mental health, depression being part of what we deal with. And I'm very grateful to Hilda for welcoming me to this show. I hope we get to learn very much on depression And if you have someone out there who is suffering from any mental disorder, substance use disorder, name them alcohol, cannabis, which is weed, miraa. So we really try to snap them back to reality, show them how adverse the effects of long-term usage of alcohol and other substances can be into their life. So it's not just a recovery clinic for alcohol and substance use disorders, but also for depression. You can come for inpatient, you can come for outpatient. There are doctors, there are physicians, there are psychiatrists, there are counselors, there are nurses. Wow. So everyone is welcome.
So you're telling people they need to snap back. I like that. Snap. That's such a good idea. Yeah. So welcome. Now let's start this. Before we talk about depression, we need to define that concept. So what is depression?
Depression, to start with, is a mood disorder. But as much as it's a mood disorder, it's a health mental condition. It's a mental health condition, A mental health condition where it's basically characterized with feelings of hopelessness. You've been through a few challenges in life, a few setbacks in life. You've been disappointed, so you feel hopeless from such an experience. And then people feel useless for facing such experiences. And these symptoms not just revolve around feeling hopelessness, the other symptoms that come with depression. So basically, depression is a mood disorder, I would say, a mood disorder characterized by loss of hope, loss of interest in activities you enjoyed before. There are people out there who love, let's say, basketball. And after setback in life, maybe they lost their job, they are no longer interested in basketball. So they isolate from the social environment, they isolate from social interactions, they lock themselves in their room. That is what basically depression is. You get to feel hopeless, you get to feel useless as a person, and you lose interest in activities you enjoyed before.
And when you talk about losing interest in activities, in life we go through a lot and different circumstances that just happen. You are doing fine, you are okay, and then life just changes. And we have this tendency of saying, if someone comes and asks you, Emmanuel, how are you? It's like a song. We say, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like people rarely say, by the way, I am not fine.
Exactly.
And I think we need to start from there, like being open enough to say, you know what? I am not fine. And even when we talk about this depression thing, there are causes that lead to that. So maybe we can just expound on that. What are some of the causes that lead to depression?
There are a number of causes that lead to depression. And maybe in describing them, I can try mention them from the factors that lead to these causes. First factor that leads to the cause of depression, they are biological factors. Biological factors, we have three causes and the biological factors. The first cause is genetics. Research shows if you've been born to a family, the first class relatives, biological parents, biological siblings, if either of them has been diagnosed with depression, chances are you are 3 times likely to develop symptoms of depression.
Oh, really?
3 times like.
So it's genetic. It can be genetic.
It can be genetic.
Okay.
Because I know we've heard of prenatal depression. A mother has been depressed during childbearing.
Yes.
And that depression is transferred to the child. So the second cause biologically can be chemical imbalance.
Okay.
And chemical imbalance, when we speak of chemical imbalance, we basically speak of neurotransmitters in the brain. And the most common neurotransmitters that an imbalance in them leads to depression is dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is what we use to feel good, the feeling good hormone.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
I've bought a new phone.
You're so excited.
The one yourself. And then there is serotonin. Serotonin is what we use to regulate our moods. So imbalance in dopamine and imbalance in serotonin probably are those secretion of the hormones that facilitate the neurotransmitters in the brain would easily lead to depression. Yes.
I think I'm learning. Nasikia tu niko class.
The other cause that could lead to depression biologically would be an imbalance in secretion of hormones. For women, we have estrogen. Especially during menstruation and sexual cycles, you will see you're in your periods, but you cannot easily interact with people. You prefer isolating, spending the day in your bed,
Yeah.
someday.
Yeah, that's
So,
yes.
an imbalance in the secretion of estrogen can also lead to depression. And for men, testosterone, a decreased secretion of testosterone can also lead to depression because they are easily related to how we relate with others and how we feel masculine and feminine in our social surrounding. So, if they are secreted less in our brains, the less we feel the need to associate with other people. And the more we feel, if we associate, if we isolate, we are better. So, an imbalance in their secretion, probably low secretion of this hormone, would also lead to depression biologically. Biologically. But the other factors that lead to depression, they are physical factors, like you end a job somewhere,
Yes.
and unfortunately, the staff were cut down probably, and you didn't have another source of income for you and for your loved ones, and probably you are the breadwinner in your family. So you end up losing your job, and physically you feel this is too much for me. Or maybe you get involved in a car accident that you probably used a loved one or a good friend of yours. So physically, there are factors that can lead to depression. Emotionally too, there are people who have been involved in past traumas. There are people out there who are diagnosed with, let's say, post-traumatic stress disorder. Emotionally, these people they feel drained emotionally, I would say. They hate associating with other people. They feel sad. Probably they end such an experience. Some try to make meaning of such experiences, but they can't. And emotionally, you get really overwhelmed by these things. And getting overwhelmed means you develop symptoms of depression. And that can also be a cause to depression. The other factor that could lead to depression is the cognitive factors. Cognitive factors like negative thinking patterns. Maybe you had a negative encounter in your workplace or with your friends. For those extreme cases, like you experienced sleep or forced to intercourse minus consent. So, cognitively, you tend to associate maybe men with those intentions. So, cognitively, your thoughts revolve around the negative thinking patterns, and you try to base every experience that you have in life negatively. So, cognitively, if you've been exposed to negativity all your life, you have no social network, probably you never got that proper parenting, cognitively you are disturbed. And those are some of the factors cognitively that can lead to depression. There are also health issues, people out there are diagnosed with chronic illnesses like cancer, some Alzheimer's, and those cognitive degenerating illnesses like Parkinson's. For such people, interacting with other people is always a struggle for them, because probably you told they told you their name a minute ago, and the next minute they have forgotten your name. So for them, associating with people and these feelings of hopelessness are really connected to their social surroundings. So depression really kicks in for them. And hopefully, if you have such a person, you can offer support system. If you get a better understanding of their illnesses, let's say cancer, you are at a better position of addressing that illness, and you can better associate with them minus judgment. Because the moment they feel judged, they feel alienated from their social environment, and they would rather enclose themselves in their rooms or somewhere and be at peace with their illnesses, unlike associating with other people.
Why are there so many cases of depression? Because I think I've interacted with people who would say, I am depressed. And I'm like, until you're in that shoe, you would not really understand why they're saying they are depressed. And most of the time they will tell you, you will not understand me. And they will say, people don't understand me. I am depressed. So why do you think there's so many cases of depression now?
Okay. Depression is a mood disorder, and mood is one thing that really revolves around human beings and how they perceive themselves and their world. Let's say, for example, in our current economy, maybe Kenya in general, the middle class are straining to make their ends meet. And trying to make your ends meet minus reliable sources of income means you are struggling. You are struggling financially.
My God, yes.
You can't provide to your children, you can't provide to your family. And sometimes you find yourself minimizing your expenditures to help maybe pay school fees for your children. Mentally, for such a person, they are really in a dilemma.
Yeah.
They are going out of their way to ensure that they earn enough for themselves and their children. And depression is commonly associated with strain financially, strain mentally, strain psychologically. And in the current generation,
Yes.
we've seen people booming up and there are so many scammers. Like we, a 20-year-old boy is out here living in very fancy estates, owning very beautiful flats, having very expensive cars. So the current modern life of living, apart from the experience we're having with our socioeconomic dynamic, we also have that modern life pressure. Modern life pressure means there are people who are well off in our social environment, there are others who are not well off in the social environment, and everyone is trying to compare themselves to those who are better off than them. And pushing yourself that extra mile minus knowing how to do it and essentially be like the person you're looking up to is always a struggle for most people. So you find themselves, they are really putting in effort to ensure they get to where maybe the people they look up to are, but they don't have the resources to help them get there. So if you've tried your very best and you can't get there, you are bound to be depressed. Say.
That is so true. I guess now I'm understanding.
So our modern lifestyle are really changing. People should actually acknowledge where they are financially instead of pushing to those extreme limits. Well, to help maybe earn more for money they do not necessarily need. They're just trying to compare themselves to other people who are better off in their social environment. I would say there is much awareness as far as mental health is concerned. People can easily recognize depression from a distance. People have learned about them symptoms, the depressive symptoms. People have learned about other mood disorders. So, from an awareness point of view, like you've done, people really get to understand depression from a deeper level. See, if people can easily identify depression,
Yes.
when they are depressed and when their loved ones are depressed, it's easier to tell, I would say, and to get a professional help. So from that recognition, the numbers of depression and people suffering from depression out there would obviously increase. And then the stigma around mental health is really declining. So people out here who are suffering, they don't feel the need of isolating. They would rather speak out and seek that professional help. And in seeking that professional help, the numbers of also people suffering from depression have obviously increased.
I think I've noticed we are now embracing mental health even more nowadays.
Exactly.
But now I have a question. I saw a case of a young girl who was just okay. Like everyone would look at him and they will see she's jovial, she's okay. There's nothing wrong with her. But then her parents wake up one morning and she has committed suicide and she's a teenager. And now when I look at you, Emmanuel, if you'd ask me, you just walked in, I've seen you. If you ask me, is Emmanuel okay, I'll tell you.
He's okay.
He's okay. But I don't really know what you're going through.
Exactly.
So my question is, how can you tell somebody's depressed?
And in how can you tell, we can maybe try to discuss a few symptoms, signs and symptoms of depression. They are obviously physical signs and symptoms of depression. A change in your sleeping patterns. A change in your sleeping patterns is an indication, and the first and basic indication of depression. Maybe you sleep 8 hours a day, and currently you find yourself sleeping as late as 8 in the morning, meaning you've slept like 10 hours. That would be basically oversleeping, what most people would call hypersomnia. There are other people, as a result of depression, they really tend to sleep less at night because of integrating their thoughts, consolidating their thoughts, trying to make meaning of them, and those dilemmas, you don't know what tomorrow holds for me. So they tend to sleep less. There is also a change in appetite. A change in appetite means there are some who tend to eat more when depressed. The others who tend to eat less when depressed. Physically, when depressed, there are people who complain of aches and pains. Like you will hear someone, I have an unexplainable headache. I've not been exposed to maybe an experience that would cause me an headache, and I have suddenly developed an headache. It could be also a physical indication of depression. Another sign that you would easily identify that you're probably depressed is your change in moods. You are very hyper about your days. Maybe, let's say, for example, in your first days of the year, and now you feel low. You feel low, lack of energy,
Yeah.
I would say. You are less motivated to work.
Yeah.
And you don't feel the need to share your feelings. Emotionally, you feel overwhelmed with emotions, and you can't really explain why. And you want to really isolate and keep withdrawn from social interactions. Those are also signs. But apart from the isolation, the alienation part, there are also cognitive causes. There are people who probably have been exposed to traumatic events.
Okay.
Traumatic events means probably your loved ones died, or it maybe passed from a long-term illness. You've never comprehended maybe the reason as to why probably they left you. And that death really alters how you process emotions, I would say, and how you view yourself and your social surroundings.
Okay.
So a loss of a loved ones, maybe a loss of a loved ones through divorce, and maybe through a car accident or any other accident would also be a really serious cause that contribute to depression. Just but a few causes that we can identify, But apart from those, you can't really tell that you're depressed minus seeing these symptoms or identifying with these causes most days. I would say like consecutively 2 weeks. If you've 2 or 3 symptoms minus feeling useless and hopeless, you don't sleep very well at night, you don't eat very well during the day or at night, and maybe your moods have changed and you can't explain why, and you've faced a setback or a frustration and you've been disappointed in life. If you exhibit 3 symptoms or 5 symptoms consecutively for 2 weeks, that's when we can really say that you are suffering from depression. And the most common and most severe is major depressive disorder. That is what basically we can accommodate as depression.
And I know there are effects that this depression has on individuals. You can talk about that. And when you talk about that, I want you to respond to, there are these people who rarely speak. They can go through something and they're just quiet. So how can such a person be helped? Because I'm like, I believe the aftermath of speaking out is the beginning of you to start healing out. So what happens to those who say, you know what, me, I'm reserved, I'm an introvert, I just like keeping things to myself. If I'm going through something, I'd rather not speak because again, I'm scared. I might tell someone and they go and announce it out there. What happens?
I would say depending on the severity of your depression or how adverse you are affected by that depression could easily be identified by the effects the depression has on you and maybe your social surrounding. To start with, one area that is very affected for people who are depressed that you've established,
Yes.
they lose touch with their relationships. Not really losing touch, they don't feel the need of associating with people as they used to before. So, you develop strained relationship, let's say with your loved ones, because you're depressed and you're quiet about it. You don't want anyone to understand and maybe show you insight to probably what you're going through. And you have a very hard time maybe associating with people in your social surrounding. From the isolation and withdrawal, that adversely affects your relationship, maybe love and romantic relationship, and even friends. You choose not to maybe feel comfortable organizing those meetouts, sorry, and maybe having to see them for a movie or thing. Depression also affects your self-esteem as a person.
That one is very true.
You feel very worthless about yourself. You feel very hopeless about yourself. How you view yourself and how you view your surrounding is adversely affected. Consequently, lowering your self-esteem as a person and your confidence, yes, as a person. Apart from relationship and self-esteem, depression also affects your productivity. And you find yourself, you have no life-work balance. Because you're depressed, maybe, and one of the reasons as to why you find yourself depressed, one of the causes and one of the triggers as to why you are depressed is maybe at home. So you find yourself spending more time with your work-related commitments. So you lose touch with your productivity as a person. You are not as productive as you used to. You don't enjoy working as much as you used to. You don't enjoy social activities as much as you used to. So you find yourself maybe overriding your commitments in life and basically concentrating on work. So you have no work-life balance as a result of your depressive phases. Depression also adversely affects your school life for those of us who are in universities, colleges, and high schools. When depressed, you basically lack concentration. Concentration in what you're doing as a person and what you're doing to better yourself as an individual. Lack of concentration means you don't give as much as is needed for maybe a given task in school or at work. So job is affected, relationships are affected, your productivity as a person is affected, and your self-esteem is also affected.
I strongly believe there's always a solution to whatever happens in our lives. And me, I love God. I love God so much because I know this life that God has given us, even whatever we go through, He always has a solution, and there's something He has to tell you about the situation that you're going through. And I believe God cannot give you something that you cannot handle. So everything happens for a reason. You might be in a very difficult moment, but it's just for a season.
Yes.
And you will get out there and continue being you.
Yes.
So let's talk about what solution do we find now that this person is depressed? And how is the healing process? And where is God in all this?
You don't have to struggle with depression for the longest. You don't have to see your loved ones struggle with depression. If you find yourself maybe exhibiting these symptoms, depression, first of all, is very treatable. It's not a chronic illness. There are basic steps that you can follow to help address your problem and get professional help.
Can you take us through those steps?
Okay, the first step to finding healing from depression, because I've said depression is very treatable. The first step you have to acknowledge that you have a problem as a person. Admitting to yourself and admitting to others that you have depressive symptoms is a step forward.
Acceptance.
And actually we are told when you are able to admit that you have a problem, it's not a feeling of, it's not a weakness as per se, but it's actually a strength for you because you can easily acknowledge and recognize that this is a problem for me. So first step and first things first into depression, you have to, as an individual, acknowledge this is a problem for me. And it's really affecting how I associate with my friends or my co-workers or my colleagues, and maybe how I see myself and value myself as a person. And from acknowledging, you take the second step to seeking professional help. There are people who will tell you if you maybe have a few bad days and maybe isolate from your social surroundings, you will gain that insight and see the importance of maybe associating with people, but it's not actually true for depression. If you can see a psychologist, psychologists have been equipped by having equipped therapy and maybe psychological intervention they can use to help an individual. And the first and most basic intervention to help a person dealing with depression is psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, there are a few therapies involved in psychotherapy, maybe to help a person dealing with depression. And the most common, and probably you've heard it, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. In cognitive behavioral therapy, you help recognize your negative thinking patterns. Those negative thinking patterns, those negative feelings, those negative behaviors, you try to restructure them and maybe change them to positive thinking patterns, positive feelings, emotions, and positive behaviors. That is what helps in CBT. You will also hear of motivational interviewing. We try to motivate ourselves to maybe how we can handle better traumatic experiences in life, and maybe how we can better handle the challenges that we are facing in life, and maybe how we can better handle the setbacks that we face in life and disappointments. Apart from motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapy, we also have realistic therapy, where we see things as they are.
Really? Zito kwa ground.
Address things as they are.
Yeah.
Get to really see from a different point of view what you're facing.
Yeah.
You don't have to succumb to the pressures of life, and there is always a reason to why we come, and there is always a way out too. winning yourself of these struggles in life. So psychologically, seeing a professional, a counselor, a psychologist, you can easily deal with depression. But apart from the psychological perspective of handling and maybe overcoming depression, there are also medical intervention that are used to overcome depression. And sometimes when you visit hospitals and mental health institutions, they will really try and combine medical intervention and psychological interventions in dealing with depression. But medically, what a psychiatrist will do for you, they prescribe antidepressant. Antidepressant help boost the serotonin and dopamine that we initially talked about, show, and maybe boost how the neurotransmitters act in the brain. And the most common antidepressant are sertraline, fluoxetine, mirtazapine, but you don't get to uh, uh, get these drugs off counter. You obviously need a prescription to be on the antidepressant. So that is why I'm really sensitizing the importance of seeking that professional help, so that if there is need for medical intervention, you're prescribed antidepressant to help deal with your conditions. But for most advanced cases of depression, let's say, for example, for people who are suffering from persistent uh, depression, depression, I would say, a depression that has been persistent for more than 2 years. Okay, it really alters how you process your thoughts as a person.
Yeah.
The advanced medical intervention, like electroconvulsive therapy, what you will hear people call ECT. ECT help kinda restructure how your neurotransmitters work in your brain, working to ensure that your decision making and maybe how hormones and neurotransmitters work in your brain improve. So these are for the advanced cases, I would say. But you can also use lifestyle changes. After seeking a professional help, they will also advise on lifestyle changes. Like if you exercise more, you are at a better position of dealing with depression. Like if you eat a balanced diet, you are at a better position of dealing with your depression, because in a balanced diet you get the nutrients that facilitate brain functioning. And if your brain can function properly, you're able to deal with depression amicably as a person. And other lifestyle changes need learning to deal with stress, learning to deal with stressors in your social environment, practicing mindfulness. Some of us will try working out and doing yoga, meditation. They really help. Apart from all this intervention, you have to understand depression is not something you basically get a quick fix to. You don't get a quick fix to depression. It's a process. It's a gradual process, I would say, to healing from depression. So if you find yourself suffering from depression, whether you are on antidepressant or you're taking psychotherapy, you also have to understand it takes time. You have to be very patient, you have to be very consistent, and you have to adhere to your professional help for you to really find healing from depression. But also depression, like I said, it comes and goes. Because it's a mood thing. It's a mood thing in mental health. So you have to work to prevent it from happening. What most people will call relapse prevention. You can be depressed. You see a counselor, psychologist, and a month or so you are off the symptoms of depression. But again, if you're not very careful with your lifestyle and maybe how you view your world around you and how you expose yourself to causes of depression, you can easily revert back to your depressive phases or depressive symptoms. So It's a condition manageable after the medical intervention and the psychosocial or psychological intervention have been used before. And it's a illness that you have to, there are people out there actually who live with depression. And you might not notice from a distance, but it's an illness that they have. It's an illness they have acknowledged they have. It's an illness they have admitted to themselves they have. And every day they work to not exposing themselves to any cause that could lead to the depression, probably the end. Amanda Bo or Ayuyako.
I'm just seated here, I'm like, where Niko class? I am learning. Sometimes they just assume, and a lot of who are going through that. I want you to have a heart-to-heart conversation with someone who is watching right now and they're in that state. And they really don't know where to go from here. They're like, how do I get out of this? And they're like, I know what you're saying can happen, but how do I do it? I'm trying. Please talk to that person. You can just look at the camera.
As you said, the first step to recovery is the acknowledgement. However uncomfortable it may feel, acknowledging this is a problem for you, it's actually the first step to seeking healing and recovering from depression. If you're out here suffering from depression, you're facing struggles, expenses in life that come and go, and probably you can predict a time in future you might be depressed. Always work to prevent yourself from expressing yourself those causes. And if you're ever bold enough to seek professional help and even find a good support system, there are those of us who probably don't believe in counseling, I would say. People out there believe that therapy works. I will go vent into a person, will get insight, maybe they hear from a different point of view, but it's not 100% assurance that I will really walk out of situation as I would have expected. But if you have a good support system where you can easily feel validated for suffering from depression, and the people around your social circles can really support you in managing your symptom, it's a step forward. But eventually, you will get to a point where the professional help is really needed. And if you have a better understanding of depression, then you are in a better position of handling depression. So if you are out there suffering, you don't have to succumb to the pressures that come with depression and depressive phases, because the more you give in to depression, the more it affects your life and the lives of those people around you. So if you feel like confining in other people about your illness is a problem, you can maybe have a support system, 2 or 3 people you can vent in whenever you feel these symptoms kicking in. And if you have that supportive social environment and that support group is helping you to maybe address this issue, you're at a better position of handling this depression. So you don't have to give in to depression. You can seek help, seek support, and eventually heal from it. Because it's not a very long-term illness if intervention are quite taken early in treating it.
So you can recover and you can snap back.
You can snap back from depression.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. I know a lot of people would love to listen to that. Even those that are not in that stage, they can help those that are in that stage. So God bless you. May God continue using you. It's such an honor to have you here at Unfold, and we hope you will come back again.
And thank you for having me.
Just to continue sharing the knowledge.
Thank you, Ding.
Until next time.
Nashukuru.
Oh, before we leave, how can people find you?
You can physically find me at Snapback Recovery Clinic, or you can reach me over a call. My number is 0702 512 046. 0702 512 046.
Social media?
And social media handles are Emmanuel Motwiri. Emmanuel Mutweli on Facebook, Emmanuel Mutweli on Instagram, Emmanuel Mutweli
on every page. Yeah. Sawa sawa. Until next time, bye.
Bye.